Jumbo Shalom Baraha Tribe. Welcome to another episode of Friday Fact Mania, episode 5. The Rampart Scandal. The Rampart scandal involved widespread police corruption and the community resources against street hoodlums, aka Crash, anti-gang unit of the Los Angeles Police Department Rampart Division. In the late 1990s, more than 70 police officers either assigned to or associated with the Rampart Crash unit were initially implicated in various forms of misconduct, including unprovoked shootings, unprovoked beatings, planting of false evidence, stealing and dealing narcotics, bank robbery, and perjury, and the covering up of evidence of these activities. The Rampart investigation, based mainly on statements of admitted corrupt Crash officer Rafael Perez, initially implicated over 70 officers in wrongdoings. So this guy basically was a snitch and snitched other officers out when he got caught. As a result of falsified evidence and police perjury, 106 prior criminal convictions were overturned. The scandal resulted in more than 140 civil lawsuits against the city of Los Angeles, California, costing the city an estimated $125 million in settlements. Yikes! That's a lot of money for all that corruption, man. Crash officers would get together at a bar near Dodger Stadium in Echo Park to drink and celebrate shootings, supervisors handing out plaques to shooters containing red and black playing cards. Also, officers wore tattoos of the Crash logo, a skull with a cowboy hat with poker cards depicting the dead man's hand, aces and eights. Wow. Biggest gang. Definitely. So, supposedly, Perez is accused of being a member of the Bloods, a notorious Los Angeles street gang, and the murdering of the notorious B.I.G., supposedly. Rafael Perez pleaded guilty to the cocaine theft and provided information to investigators about the Rampart Crash officers involved in illegal activity. Rafael Perez received a 5-year sentence and immunity from further prosecution. So before we end this episode with a clip, which we always do on every episode, Denzel Washington's character in Training Day, Alonzo Harris, was a portrayal of Rafael Perez and other Crash officers. If you didn't know, it's a fun fact. Also, the character's vehicle even displayed the license plate ORP 967, which would be the year that Rafael Perez was born. Alright, y'all be good. Shalom. Thank you for watching this episode. Have a good Friday.
Who killed rapper Notorious B.I.G. and were LAPD officers involved? The mystery of his murder has gone unsolved for 14 years now, but some people believe we are closer than ever to cracking the case, and it's all because of what you are about to see. Tonight, KCAL9's Randy Page exposes key evidence for the first time since those fatal shots were fired on an LA street.
Were LAPD officers involved in the murder of rap superstar Christopher Wallace, also known as Notorious B.I.G.? And if so, did the LAPD try to cover it up? Questions that are still being asked 14 years after the fatal rounds were fired.
It was March 9th, 1997, about 12:45 in the morning. Christopher Wallace, also known as Notorious B.I.G., was leaving a party here at the Peterson Automotive Museum at the corner of Wilshire and Fairfax when he was riding in the passenger seat of a Chevy Suburban in this lane. Witnesses say a black Chevy Impala pulled up right next to him, and a lone gunman in the driver's seat rolled down the window, opened fire, and then calmly drove away.
8 years later, in 2005, a civil trial brought by the Wallace family against the city exposed evidence the LAPD failed to produce that suggests two rogue police officers, David Mack and Rafael Perez, while not fitting the description of the gunman, may have been involved in the murder of the rapper also known as Biggie Smalls. This potentially explosive evidence involves an alleged conversation between former LAPD officer Rafael Perez and Perez's cellmate in the LA County Jail. In a moment, we will reveal for the first time portions of that inmate's potentially explosive statement, but first, some background. Death Row Records was the label that promoted another rap superstar, Tupac Shakur, who was murdered in Las Vegas months before. The original lead detective in the Notorious B.I.G. murder investigation says informants told him officers Mack and Perez were closely tied to Death Row.
They seemed to be close confidants in the inner circle of Death Row Records.
Months after the Notorious B.I.G. murder, officers Mack and Perez were convicted for unrelated crimes. Mack for bank robbery, Perez for stealing cocaine and other serious felonies. According to this court record revealed now for the first time, Perez's cellmate told investigators Perez and Mack were involved in Death Row Records. Perez got involved in Death Row through Mack. They went to all their parties and stuff, the inmate testified. But there's more. The inmate also told investigators Perez told him he was at the scene of the Notorious B.I.G. murder. Perez was working security. Perez had a cell phone. Perez said he called over to Mack, David Mack, on his cell phone. Perez told Mack that Biggie Smalls was in his truck. Perez never said that he set up Biggie Smalls, but I have heard that he had something to do with that murder. This is just a glimpse into hundreds of pages of documents involving this inmate's sworn statements that were not turned over to Wallace family attorneys. Former LAPD lead investigator Russell Poole.
Well, those documents are crucial.
Poole, who resigned from the LAPD in 1999, says it's important to understand the historical context of this murder, beginning with the beating of Rodney King 5 years before, the riots that followed, and then in 1995, the criminal trial of O.J. Simpson. Poole says in this racially charged environment, the last thing the city wanted was a scandal involving the possibility that sworn minority officers could be involved in the assassination of a superstar rap artist. Wallace family attorneys say another reason for a possible LAPD cover-up is purely financial. They say then LAPD officer Rafael Perez was on duty the night of the murder. If he was involved in it, it could potentially make the city liable for hundreds of millions of dollars in damages.
And do you believe that the LAPD has tried to cover this up?
I believe the leadership at the time that this occurred went to great lengths to cover up and keep evidence away from the district attorney's office and the FBI.
Over the years, officers Perez and Mack have repeatedly said they had no involvement in the murder. The LAPD says it can't comment since the case is still under investigation, and sources tell us criminal investigators are now following up new leads in this 14-year murder investigation that so far has come up empty. In Los Angeles, Randy Page, KCAL 9 News.